There are a few things that are key to the story today, but they're trying to rein in Musk's tweeting for obvious reasons. I mean, the most recent and probably most serious issue being that he made a surprise tweet last week saying he wanted to take the company private, he had funding secured, and in the aftermath of that, it's become clear that that's not strictly accurate. Even if he thought that was the case, and we don't know his state of mind at the time, he's tried to explain it, it's not fully the case right now. He doesn't have the funding all lined up. In fact, he doesn't even have advisors securely lined up, at least as of last night. He was talking to Goldman Sachs. He might be working with Silver Lake Partners, among others, including some law firms, but that's not firmed up. He's also, though, gone kind of off on some random tangents. I mean, he disparaged one of the Thai cave divers who was rescuing those stranded boys. You know, that's just one of a rash of kind of offbeat tweets that the board has become concerned
and more active this year than in past years.
Yeah, that's a great graphic. I hadn't realized that, but yeah, he's definitely very active, and frankly, it reminds one a little bit of the president, who has been reined in, or attempted to be reined in by his staff, I should say, not the former. It just doesn't really work. I mean, he sees it as a way to speak to the world, a way to share his thoughts and beliefs, and it seems like the same thing with Musk here.
Which begs the question, how much of this is a reflection of the fact that you have a board that is largely comprised of people that are close to Elon Musk,
right,
and maybe not so independent, versus the fact that when you're talking about something like Twitter and somebody's smartphone, how do you control that anyway?
Right. So the board is relatively small. It's 9 members. His brother is one of them. There's another one who considers themselves such a good friend of his that they didn't want to serve on the special committee of 3 people that's been set up to review this possible privatization. There are others who are board members at SpaceX or investors in SpaceX. There's one board member who's been recused from a variety of things because of his own issues. So yes, it's a small board, and one that would seem to have, you know, conflicted feelings about their role as caregivers of the company and their friendship with Musk, if those interests were to diverge.
As it relates to tweeting, I mean, you said it's not working. It's not working if the SEC starts to crack down and looks into the statements. Otherwise, you know, he's ginned up a lot of hype over the years on his Twitter account when it comes to announcements, and he's allowed to do that as a public company CEO, right? That's legal.
Absolutely, assuming that he doesn't get ahead of facts, he doesn't misrepresent facts. But you don't want the branding overhang of a CEO who's being obnoxious or even slanderous in talking about the cave diver, for example. You want to have a certain image for a company. Yes, a renegade CEO, a CEO who communicates with the broad public, especially when you're a consumer company, is a good thing, but it can go too far.
It's funny, I think of Ledger at Timo, who
sure,
in the midst of a now sensitive corporate event, has really reined it in, gone almost radio silent in a way. That's something Musk has not done. One last question. When you say in the piece that board members are racing to inoculate themselves, what do you mean by that?
Well, among other things, so they've made this attempt to rein in Musk's tweeting, but they've also lawyered up. So the board has retained Paul Weiss in order to kind of represent them. The special committee has retained Latham and Watkins to advise them. They're certainly thinking about the potential transaction here, but they're also trying to protect themselves from any possible outcome of an SEC investigation. So they need to think about that as well.
Not to mention the class action moves we've seen over the past few days.
Right, right. So yeah, I mean, there could be a bunch of legal fallout as a result of this, and they just want to make sure they're prepared.